Welcome to Toot Your Own Horn, Music Matters. I am with Peter G. today. Welcome.
Hello.
I am so happy to have you, and I am so excited to hear your story about how you chose your instrument. Would you be so kind as to tell us?
Yeah, well, thanks for inviting me to do this. I'm pleased and surprised and giddy. I haven't had this question asked to me in a long time. I'm so glad we reconnected and to try to tell the story. Gosh, how I chose my clarinet. Well, it starts way back in elementary school in fourth and grade, and I can't remember, the junior high bands came along and said, "Okay, it's if you want to play an instrument, here are the various instruments." And I remember sitting down with my folks, and it's like, "So would you like to play an instrument?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I think I think I went through a process of elimination, and like I thought the brass were too loud, and I thought the French horns looked too heavy to pick up, and I thought the oboe, I might break the reed or something like that, and I didn't want to play percussion because I didn't want to. I think it was too loud, and trombone, I thought I didn't have the arms to do that, to do the slide, and the flute was like, well, that's like, I'll just say it, it was fourth grade back in the 70s. Like, it's like, the flute's a girl instrument, so I can't do that, and I was like, whatever. And I think I kind of landed on the clarinet by default. So I guess that just leaves the clarinet. So I guess I'll play that. And so that's how that happened. And my band director, okay, sure, let's try this out. And I picked it up, and I felt so awkward, but somehow I just kept on playing it. And I had taken piano lessons, and so I understood the notes and the rhythms and everything, and I just started doing it, and all of a sudden I found myself up in the first chair section and everything. I just kept on going with it, and I don't know what happened, but something clicked. I am not quite sure. I hate to say that because it makes it seem like it was some sort of like inborn something, and I hesitate to do that because everyone has a talent for music and everyone has an interest in music, but something happened where I was able to catch on and get it, and I started playing things that I didn't really have to think about it, and all of a sudden I found myself as a sixth grader playing with the eighth grade sectionals, and my band director said, Peter is in the eighth grade because the eighth grade would win sectionals because I think he can handle it. And I had no idea what he meant by that. He just said, come to sectionals on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 3 to 4. I'm like, sure, okay, whatever. And I had no idea what he was setting me up for. And I remember Mr. Pettingill, Lane Pettingill, he was, anyway, Mr. Pettingill, and I remember he was like, we were going through scales, and play a C major scale, D major scale, G major scale, and everything. And I came to the E major scale with 4 sharps, and I was like, okay, so I did it. And he was like, yeah, do that again. Next time I see you, do that again. And I went, no mistakes. No mistakes. And I was like, what? And he's like, because you can do it. And I'm like, huh? And to this day, as I worked at it, and I did play, and I got through that, and he's like, he just kept on pushing me and challenging me. And I had no idea why. And when he retired, for his birthday retirement ceremony, I sent him a long letter, and I presented it to him at his retirement ceremony, explaining to him, I won't forget the fact that he saw something and pushed me. And I had because I was in sixth grade at the time. As sixth grader, I just had no idea what was going on, but he did something, and I had no idea what he was doing. I just did it because I thought I should do what the teacher tells me to do, and And I remember that he was pushing me because he thought I had the potential to do it, and he wouldn't take anything less from me. And I said, and I wrote him in the letter, like, you have no idea how much I replay that moment. And throughout my junior high, I was like, what was that all about? And I finally figured out that he was just trying to push me in that. And then I got to high school and started taking private lessons, and I found myself in the first, and it just kind of really took off. And then, I don't know how the fates align or things like that, but then I got to high school and I went to York High School in Elmhurst, and I ran, and the band director was the inimitable, I don't know what kind of edible you want to say, but he was all that and then more, Dr. Bruce Moss. And I had no idea what this was about, but I just kept, okay, I'm in the band, I'm in music. And I started playing, and it's like, and then I found myself in the junior varsity and the concert band, and he was like, he was playing, Hindemith Symphony in B flat, Armenian dances, all that stuff, and I was like, okay, sure, okay, I guess this is what we do. And the other thing too is that I made friends in there. To this day, they're my friends for life. The Daryl Beeses, the Tom Costas, the Sean Gardners, the Amy Odell, the Lisa Jarosik, and we just all hung out together. We just kept on Tim Harmon. We just kept on talking music, and I had no idea that was my niche, but that's what it was. I'm like, back in this, okay, you have to get it. Back in the 80s, vinyl records were the deal, and for some reason, we just kept on geeking out. We're going to go to Rose Records, Tower Records. You got to get we're going to try to get Stravinsky's Firebird Suite. We're going to get Ravel, and we're just geeking out on this stuff. And like, should get the Cleveland Symphony, should get the Chicago Symphony version of it, and we're just completely in our world. And our goal was to have as many records stacked up better than you, and I don't know, and we just kept on doing that with vinyl records, and we just kept on doing those kinds of things, and luckily York music, to me, I thought this was the norm. We did sectionals, we did trios, we did competitions, we did solos, unaccompanied solos, and at the time, we blew off marching band in favor of doing concert classical band repertoire. And Dr. Moss, to this day, I still don't know, but he does it. He got after us. He kept it musical. He kept it disciplined. He kept it fun. He kept it enjoyable. He kept saying how to make music, and he kept that. And next thing we know is we're taking first in the state. But we actually didn't do that. We never did those state competitions because he was like, we don't need anybody external to tell us that we're good. We do music. We don't need this. And so we kept on looking at Allerton, going to the Woodwind in Allerton, the festival, Interlochen, things like that, and just all parts. I went to band summer camps, all parts of ways to keep playing music here and there. And I just thought that was a way. That's just what we do. And it wasn't until I got out of that and I went to DePaul University that I realized wow, what I went through was very fortunate because we just kept on playing music and the interest and the joy and the cultivation. And I was like being such a music nerd. And to this day, I'm still a music nerd, and I've still got my buddies. We're still music nerds. And it just opened up a whole new area of world that I thought was just there, but in some ways, most people never really get a chance to enjoy what that could have been like, and I can go on and on. I just, we did orchestra, I did jazz band, I did pit musicals, and I started branching it back into the piano again. That fell off. I was playing piano for the jazz band, and I was playing piano for different things and doing vocal work and everything. And I just it was like, I got rehearsal. And that tends to be great. I gotta go to rehearsal, it's going till 9 o'clock. And I got into the Elmhurst community band. I was like, oh, that's Monday night from Sunday night, and dragging myself. And I got private lessons. Oh, and I got a shout out to, I'll get to the private lessons in a second, but it's like, I got Saturday morning rehearsal. I got a concert. I can't do it. I may have begrudged that, but looking back, music gave me such a structure to my adolescence. I had no idea that how important that was, and I didn't really mind it, but it was like, I mean, I did and didn't. Obviously, I was a teenager, or whatever, but it really structured my day, my months, and I knew what I was looking forward to, and my summers, and like I do music, and and being me now as a parent and like watching, just like I'm thankful that my son has like basketball as a way to structure his days and his year, and it just gave me so much structure to my day. And my heart breaks a little bit for kids who haven't really found that structure, that niche that keeps them whatever. It's like, I get to do whatever I want. Well, big deal. In some ways, I got really focused and structured and disciplined about what it means to, this is my day. I study, I practice, I go to sleep. Oh, that sounds horrible. Like, no, that was great in some ways, looking back on it. I knew what I needed to do, I, and so, yeah, and I'm going to maybe use that as a transition to private lessons. And, I took private lessons with Julie DeRoche at DePaul, and I don't know what I did to please the fates, but I mean, Julie DeRoche taught me everything and then some about what it means to be talented, but with brains. I mean, it's one thing to be talented, but if you don't have the brains to actually discipline to how do you strive to do all this stuff, I'm like, oh, I got to do the Albert scales, I got to do the staccato studies, I got to do the etude. I gotta like listen to my pit. And it's like, but I mean, I kind of jokingly do that, but it's like, so that's what I'm listening for. I know what to listen for. I know what it should sound like. I know how to practice that. I know how to do all this. And I'm like, and I take those things and I put them into my work as a psychologist. How do you slow it? What am I listening for? And I my private teachers were like, what are you listening for? You let how do I know this? Like, you let your ear be your guide, and in psychology, you let your affect, your emotions be your guide. So that's that. But
why did you not pursue music?
you would think, right? And to this day, and I have this complex in other areas of my life, and I didn't really know about this until, well, but I sold myself short. I thought that to be a musician, there was the Chicago Symphony Orchestra, and that was it.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea that there are other ways of life and career. I thought you either had to be a band director in the Chicago Symphony Orchestra, or is that it? Because I couldn't see or think about what else was there. And I shut myself down. Plus, I also thought, God, and I was good, but for better or for worse, myself and another clarinetist, we were kind of always battling, and I literally mean battle for first chair. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's and that got in my head. It's like, gosh, I either have to be the best, Larry Combs, or I don't get a job, whatever. So I just kind of sold myself short. And to this day, I still kind of look back and regard, like, what if I had someone take me aside and said, there are many other ways to explore and enjoy your work as a musician other than what you think it is. And you may not be the Larry Combs or Stephen Williams or the Alessandro Carbonare, but that doesn't mean that you're not worth it and valuable, and you're talented, and that not just that, but amazing too. And I was like, I could have done this, I could have done this, I could have done this, and not just teaching or just performing. I could have done jazz clarinet. I could have done, I don't know, beret clarinet. I could have played clarinet and on, I don't know, and it just, cruising, cruise ships or something, or in venues. Just kind of really, I guess, like, stability was the thing that kind of got in my head. Like,
Right.
but if I just kind of trusted myself and allowed myself, and the thought of auditions, like, oh my gosh, there's only two slots for this audition, and there's 100 clarinets. What chance do I have? And if you think like that, that's not going to help you. I asked a cello player that I met with a cello player for the Chicago Symphony Orchestra, and I go, you must be the most awesome cello player on the planet if you're in the Chicago Symphony Orchestra.
Mhm.
And he's like, not quite. On that particular day, I got lucky enough to get in. I'm like, what do you mean luck? Because, and it's like, I just happened to get in. And he's like, I'm constantly learning how to improve my craft as a cellist, you know? And I'll never forget this story. Daryl Beasy told me this story. Like, apparently, the French horn player of the Chicago Symphony Orchestra, they were having auditions for opening in the French horn section. So he had this idea that he would, you know, auditions are anonymous. He had this idea that he would actually pose as an audition member anonymously to see if he would like get back in to the Chicago Symphony. He went through the entire audition process, and when the rankings came out, he came in ninth place
Wow.
for his own seat. I mean, that means there were eight other players better than him to
On
get to
that
the
day.
on that day, but he was already there. But
Mhm.
that just completely warped my mind. And it's like you got to take this, I'm the best, I'm not good enough, and take that and throw it out the window and follow your heart. You know, to this day, I keep running into situations. I think the fates are calling me back into music. I reconnected with you. By the way, you know, I had you as my private teacher during the days when Mrs. DeRoche left, and I remember you taking me and running me through and everything like that. And you know, and telling me, you know, this is how you breathe, this is how you phrase, this is your legato, this is the tonguing. And I remember, I don't know if you remember this moment, but there was a moment that I remember clear that you know, I'm hard on myself. I am. I'm built that way. I am. And I'm just like, I can't do this, or something. And I just got all frustrated. And I think something triggered something in you. It's like, and like this short of yelling at me for like, will you stop being so down on yourself? You're talented. You can get this. You can do this. But I don't understand why I get it. Maybe you have high expectations for yourself, but now you're getting in your own way. So knock it off. And I'm like, what am I doing to myself? You know, and I think like, you know, I have high expectations, but when
Right.
they're starting to really cut you off, that's when we have a problem. And like, and there's no other really cure for that except to just stop it, you know.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, let's take a moment, let your high expectations run through you, let it, you know, it's gonna grip you, fine. Let it grip you for like a minute and then put it aside and
Right.
refocus because I mean clarinet playing and everything music wasn't isn't done overnight and but I'm not going to let you give up on it and you got to keep playing and trying and so far I keep playing the clarinet now that's like to try to like I'm kind of read like I want to replay those solos I did back in college and try to
Yeah.
read them. I want to try to redo my piano playing
Nice.
and yeah, and then I keep running into people like I want to do the same thing too. I was a singer, so I want to sing too again. You know, I played the guitar, so I want to play that again. All right, let's do some clarinet guitar jazz duets. Let's do some Broadway shows with piano and singing again. Let's where do we let's go at the local open mic at the cafe. Let's try
Yeah.
there, you know, and I just the fates won't let me let this go. And so and I think like for me, I if I had to go back in time and tell it's like, you know, don't sell yourself short. You could probably still do this. You're just getting in your own way. And I get it. You may have concerns about like X, Y, and Z, but you're surrounded by people who are encouraging this. So I'd pay a lot more closer attention to that, you know. I
Was
mean,
your family musical?
you know, my no, my dad couldn't figure out which way is up or down in music. And my mom wanted to play the cello, but she never got a chance to do it. And my brother, for some reason, I got all the artistic musical genes. He got all the athletic genes, and he has no clue what I'm doing. And I have no clue what he's doing. So no, I just I know. I just like, did you have a good environment? Did you have this or the genes or you must have, like, I didn't have any of that.
But they supported you.
They took me to lessons and they went to my concerts, but no, nothing more oh yeah, let me teach you this, let me teach you this. They really didn't do that, and for a lot of reasons. But so I really don't think I felt like I had like any kind of extra advantage. And again, I don't know what turned on in my brain. For some reason I gravitated to listening to Mozart, and my brothers start just like listening to just wanted to imitate Michael Jordan. So
Right.
I don't know what that was, but whatever it is, I'm glad it fit me. I'm glad it fit with who I am, and I'm glad I'm like this. So that's yeah.
Did you use the word pushed, that you felt pushed and that you appreciated that? Not all kids appreciate being, quote, pushed. Did you feel like that push was coming from a place of kindness, or did you feel like the competitiveness in you made you feel like you had to rise to the challenge? Or
You
was it
know,
a bit of both?
I think it was probably a bit of both. I think it was a kind push, and I think it was meant to be. I mean, don't get me wrong. There were frustrating pushes, like, could you please get your no, not please get your act together because you can do this better. I'm like, yeah, you're right. I'm falling off my track. But then there was like, I think you can handle this, and so there was that kind of gentle push. But then it was also like, I don't know if I really pushed myself, but I was, it's like, okay, yeah, I think I got used to the push. I think I remember like going those scales, like doing it over and over again. And all of a sudden I got used to doing this.
Mhm.
And so like even now to this day, I'm used to like sitting down and writing a paper for my psychology career. I'm used to sitting down and I got used to like sitting down for myself for playing for a half hour, like going through this, I'm used to that.
Meaning having to rise to a certain level and do it on the first try or do it in a quick way or being able to get to the point, I guess. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, slow and steady and get to the point and being patient with that. And like, okay, eventually this will come through. I'm not going to see it, but, but I was just kind of like, I'm glad I did that. I'm glad I took a half hour myself to work on a scale. I'm glad I took a half hour to actually listen to what's going on with these three measures that's driving me crazy on this etude. And at some point I was kind of like, I'm able to do things that I think most people in their adult lives
Mhm.
don't get really a chance to do, to sit down with themselves and either through develop a hobby, develop something that read a book,
Mhm.
or to discipline themselves to, it's like I'm glad I figured out a way to be used to what's it like to sit down because I think a lot of adults and at this stage feel like I wish I can do that.
Mhm.
And it's like I get used to like I can sit down and try to be patient with how to do that. I mean,
Is that the role of discipline?
I would think so. How do you be patient with yourself to take some time to notice something about yourself and to realize that it's not going to get better overnight. It's going to take practice, 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 and eventually it'll come together. But to feel like, hey, I'm doing something that most people talk about but don't get a chance to do. It's like I get like I have to push myself to get over my stage fright to still play piano and the clarinet in the cafe, and I have to discipline myself, take a deep breath. We're doing this for fun, block out the stuff. And how many people get a chance to say, I know how to do that, but I never actually do it. I would love to do what you're doing. And I like it's like, yeah, I've always wanted to do that. It's like, yeah, sure, why not? I'm trying to do this in other areas. I'm trying to get back into swing dancing. I'm trying to get back into other things that are like artistic for me. So.
How would you explain the value of discipline? Because you've mentioned it a few times and you've also used it in the same sentence with the word fun.
Yeah, yeah.
How would you talk about those two things?
I having a mentor to tell me what I should do, because there were things that I was doing that was just not getting me anywhere. So having a plan about it, having it tailored, I think for me, like having an end goal that was fuzzy, but also like time management, but also setting aside the time and and like, okay, so this is what it takes. And it's a bit of a I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's a bit of a gruel. And like there are times like, shoot, I forgot to practice today. It's like it's 10 o'clock at night. I'm going to do it. I got to put that time because I don't want to lose what I gain. And then just kind of like uh but then also setting a timer in that, and also but knowing what to look for when I'm doing this, and having that end goal in mind, and like what am I trying to smooth out, what am I trying to what bumps am I trying to figure out here, and noticing, taking a deep breath, and and not being so aggravated if I don't see anything and immediately. And I think like I think it's in some ways it's fun because I I feel like I'm making something of my day now, and I think to me that's fun because I'm learning something new, and it's kind of enjoyable to talk about. So yeah.
Isn't it also true that putting yourself in that constraint gets you into a place where you know yourself better because that constraint of having to try to accomplish something forces you to think about who you are and how you approach that, and there's some joy in that.
There is. It's self-awareness is always a joy. And it's like, I think it's like they're like, okay, I'm getting frustrated. I can't get this break, that I can't get this articulated the way I want it to. It's like, okay, I got to slow it down, and what am I noticing, and what am I tuning into that keep flipping me up? Okay, it's like I gotta slow down. I gotta slow down the keys here. I gotta like get used to this. I gotta get used to the one-on-one fingering here. And being aware of like what am I frustrated about, and to kind of contain that a bit and breathe through that. It's like, hey, I'm able to kind of do that. And if I may, it's like I do this a lot in my writing and my psychology work. It's like I don't know how, what am I can't think, I can't think. It's like, wait, hold it, chill. I Be direct, slow, pay attention to your affect, pay attention to your senses, and see and try to be simple about it. And I get through it. And but then I also ask for help. I mean, like, wait a second, this is a bit out of my orbit here. I need to talk to this. I need to talk to this. And like, I think if I can ask for help, yeah, I think those are the ways I try to get through it. I mean, I guess there's so many ways about how discipline can be equated with fun. And I think I'd rather, I mean, I guess, I mean, as a psychologist and as a musician, I think I could probably talk about that for hours, maybe, or maybe too long. I don't know. But I'd rather have it that way than just flopping around and giving up. So,
What do you think someone listening to this could learn from playing a wind instrument?
well, I'd say follow your heart, follow your passion, and don't give up. But I think seeking help, seeking lessons, seeking opportunities. And I think like um and I think other people share the same curiosities and passion as you do. I think we kind of tend to be isolated. It's like I'm the only one thinking like this. And I'm like, I'm sure other people around you are thinking the exact same thing. We just don't reach out and find a way to connect. And like, oh yeah, yeah, try this person, try this person. Ever since I went back to music, I just keep running into all sorts of people like, yeah, let's connect, let's connect, let's connect. Okay, it may not always turn out, but that's a different story. But I would, I just, you deserve a chance to give yourself some time and opportunity and space to try to follow it. So, because other people are thinking the exact same way you are. So,
Why do you think adults stop playing?
I think life gets in the way, I suppose. I mean, I guess that's true, and I think like, but I also think like they just don't have enough venues to showcase what they're doing, and life gets in the way. And I put aside my clarinet for a while because like in the middle of starting a family and starting a career and the stresses with that, I just couldn't. I just it fell by the wayside. And could I have done it? I don't know. I just kind of got in my head like something has to give if I'm having a family, and maybe that's true to a large extent. But I but I also, it's like once I try to get back into it, I think like just trying to find places to play, but also just like wondering if I'm good enough, and do I still have it? And shoot, sometimes my clarinet, when I first started, it sounded like a kazoo. I mean, there was no way, like I'm not ready to do anything. But it took me a while to kind of get my muscles. I think I use that figuratively, but also true, like to get my fingers and muscles back into gear and to be able to showcase that somewhere else. So there's just very few opportunities. I had to work it. I had to look around and take some time to kind of, where do I go? Open mic nights? Where is it going to play? It's too late for an open mic night. And, so like, where am I going to go? And I just thought like, and then I just kind of went on the Facebook and said, is there anyone who can join me on this? Where can I go? And that's when things started to happen. But I think it's a risk to put yourself out there. So, and I would say like, yeah, but you and everyone else are thinking the same thing. So I don't know. I wouldn't sell yourself short. You'll never know until you actually give yourself that shot. So
That's awesome. So if somebody was listening to this podcast and took all of your advice, what would you tell them to get them to tomorrow? Go find a wind instrument to start.
I would say, find your wind instrument and find a piece to play and grab your reed and put it on there and just start from the beginning. Start from middle C, go from middle C to middle D to E, F, G, and go back down. And okay, you're playing hot cross buns. I get it. It feels so first grade, but you're it's a good first step, and you should be proud of yourself for even making that first step, because a lot of people think it. You actually did it, and you deserve whatever accolade you want out of that, and be patient. It will take some time, but it doesn't mean that you're not going to get there. But I grab an instrument and I get a rental, something like that, and put it on and fine, and put it on the Facebook. It's like, is there anyone else who can teach me how to play this darn thing? It's like, yeah, I'm sure people would love to do that, and just volunteer the time for it. And like, yeah, I'll play hot cross buns, but like, I really like this Mozart clarinet concerto. What is the hell about? It's like, let's give it a shot. Okay, what do we got to lose? So